I've basically stated this. Now, what's interesting is within this period, from 1846 to 1888, there was differences of opinion about what exactly it meant that Christ was begotten. Now, look at this statement. I don't know if you can see it clearly. This is a quotation from one of Uriah Smith's books on Daniel and Revelation. Notice what he says on Revelation, actually. Moreover, Christ is the beginning of the creation of God. Now, that's a quotation from the book of Revelation, right? Revelation 3 is called the beginning of the creation of God. Now, notice how Uriah Smith understood these words. Not the beginner, but the beginning of the creation, the first created being, dating his existence far back before any other created being or thing next to the self-existent and eternal God. So what is he saying? That the words, the beginning of the creation of God, what does that mean? According to him, that means that he's the first created being. You see that? So this is the same man who in 1872 wrote out that statement of beliefs, right? And I don't remember the date of this statement. I think this was written in 1876. Now, what's interesting is that this same man, after 1888, notice now what he says. Others, however, and more properly we think, take the word to mean agent or efficient cause. Here he's explaining another verse which is found in Colossians, where it says, actually, let's go there. Let's go to Colossians chapter 1. Colossians 1, and we're going to read verse 15 and 16. Colossians 1, verses 15 and 16. So it says, who is the beginning of the who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. Now that statement, the firstborn of every creature, has been understood to mean the first one created, the first of all creatures to be created, right? Now, and so we won't read verse 16 for now. Again, the point is that originally, when people like Uriah Smith read this verse, and he read those words, the firstborn of every creature, he understood firstborn to literally mean the first brought into existence of every creature. In other words, the very first created being. Are you with me? So, but notice how he understood this verse years later, after 1888. It says, others, however, and more properly we think, take the word that is firstborn to mean agent or efficient cause, which is one of the definitions of the word, understanding that Christ is the agent through whom God has created all things. So before you read the next phrase, can you see here that Uriah Smith shifted in his understanding? Initially, he believed that word firstborn of every creature, he understood that meant created. Now he's saying that word in the Greek can actually be translated as the creator, right? The one through whom everything is created, right? In other words, the source of all creation. So notice he says, so even though he has just said Christ is not created, notice what he says next. But that he himself came into existence in a different manner. So can you see that Uriah Smith still believed that Jesus didn't always exist, that there was a point at which he was brought into existence, but he's saying he's not created. Now that's a bit strange, but but basically he's saying he's created, he is not created, but he didn't always exist. Okay, I can see some of you are confused. Me too. When I read that, I was like, what in the world? Doesn't even make sense. Okay, but then it says, now here's why he said that. Notice, as he is called the only begotten of the Father. So when they read those words, only begotten, they thought that word was literal, as in begotten means to be born or to be brought forth. So in other words, when he read that phrase, he couldn't understand that that could be a figurative expression meaning something else. Does that make sense? No, I can see some of you are nodding, but some of you are maybe the breakfast was too good. So here's what Uriah Smith is saying. The Bible is clear that Jesus was not created. Colossians says that all created things came through Jesus. However, the Bible does say that Jesus is begotten. Therefore, you can't say that something is begotten if it didn't have a beginning. The word begotten has to mean beginning. It was brought forth into existence. So in other words, he said, Colossians is clearly saying he wasn't created, but John is saying he was brought forth, which means while he's not created, he did have a beginning at some point. Do you understand? Okay, I'm trying to explain false teachings here. It's interesting. Okay, and then he says, the last sentence is, it would seem utterly inappropriate to apply this expression, that is begotten, to any being created in the ordinary sense of the term. Do you see that? So what he's actually saying in that last sentence is that Jesus was created, but not in the normal way. Right? Okay. Now, I must say this. I laugh a bit because of the inconsistency, but I must say this to you. Speaking about myself, I am nowhere near the scholar of a biblical scholar that Uriah Smith was. So when you may see me kind of snickering at some of the things that he said, he was miles ahead of where I am. And what this teaches us is that the pioneers, while they were great men, they could make mistakes. But even though they did make mistakes, we don't want to make the other mistake of throwing away everything that they taught. Right? In other words, when we read the pioneers' writings, they are rich, they are deep. I mean, he wrote a book on the state of the dead. It's like an encyclopedia, and it's amazing. It's like powerful arguments, like indestructible arguments in defense of the Adventist view of the state of the dead. So this man was brilliant. But it seems that his background from the Christian Connection Church, which he came from, it was hard for him to let go of that. And we see that in history, right? We see that with Luther and the other great reformers. It was hard for them to just let go of every doctrine that they came into the truth with. So we have to keep that in mind. Okay. So basically said this.